Hey, so welcome to Chapter 3 of Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. This is Dr. Larry Markson. I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Dr. Mary Power. And tonight we're going to talk about the big one. Last time we talked about how our past has influenced us. And so I can wait a couple of weeks to get to this one, but I think this is the granddaddy, so we're going to give it a shot. Today, we're going to talk about forgiveness.
Yes, and it is the big one because we cannot really move forward and give you advice and concepts on how to create this life you want if we don't release some of this baggage in the past. So before we jump in, just remember you can catch all of these videos on our YouTube channel, which is also named Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. And in this presentation, if you're watching it on Facebook, you will see where you can hit the link to be able to go to that page and subscribe as well.
So, you know, forgiveness sounds like such an innocuous word, but trust me, I've been in the self-help and personal expansion business for 40 years. Trust me, this is the granddaddy of all things that block you from achieving total happiness, success, fulfillment, because if someone has hurt you, or you need to forgive them, but you don't for whatever reason, or you haven't forgiven yourself for something you did do, should have done, could have done, if only I'd have done, if you haven't forgiven yourself or other people who indeed have hurt you, if you haven't done that, then that little story, that little movie plays in the back of your mind day after day, and it causes you to make different decisions, take different action steps that are not always in your best interest.
Yes, exactly. You have to look at it as your life is a story or a play even, and you have several different scenes or acts, and people are going to come in and have small parts. Some are going to come in and have big parts. But the big analogy of this is when they're going to come in and they're going to go. So when they go, if they were a bad influence and a bad situation, part of your responsibility is to release that so that you can move on to the next act as well.
So in order to start forgiving someone who has consciously or unconsciously or intentionally or unintentionally hurt you in some way, right? In order to do that, you have to be up to the willingness to know that forgiving them is not about you letting them off the hook. Because indeed, let's say for the sake of this talk, they have wronged you. And everyone would say that. Nevertheless, if they still have a part of your emotion, they have dominion over you. They won, even though they should have not won, if I can say it that way. So forgiveness sounds like a little word, but it's not. It is when someone has hurt us consciously or unconsciously, we have to resolve the inner emotions that are eating us up inside. So if you can ever get to the point that you forgive someone totally, then you're neutral and you drain all the water out of your glass so you can put more water into it and grow and expand and modify your behaviors and actions to achieve success. So the first thing to do is what I would do is say, okay, what is this thing about forgiveness and who is it I have to forgive? So when I did it, I started with myself first, forgiving all my errors, not being the best that I could be, lying or cheating or stealing or being mad at my father for my whole life, whatever it was. I started with that, which was a big job. And then I went to people and situations and places that did it. And the way I did it is I took out a paper and pencil, in those days, or a pad, and I started to write. So it's not a book, no one's gonna see it, it's your private thing. So just I can list all the hurts. And boy, I'll tell you what, when I got to the end of 3 or 4 pages, I said, is that what I've been carrying around? That's a lot of baggage.
Yes, and boy, does it steal your energy as well. How can you focus on the present, much less the future, if all of that baggage is weighing you down? And I think some separation of terms here is very important for people to wrap their head around forgiveness. We have the word forgiveness, we have the word forget, and we have the word letting go. Forgiveness does not require that you forget. And forgiveness does require you letting go so you can move forward. But forgetting and letting go are two different things. Between forgiving and letting go, there's a process you're going to go through which enables you to accept the situation as it was, but I'm not going to allow you to have dominion over me. I'm releasing the anger, the hurt, the pain, whatever it was. I'm going to let that go because now I'm going to move forward and I'm going to learn from that. And that's the reason you don't have to forget. It's because we do want you to learn from those things that put you in that situation to begin with, so that we don't repeat those patterns going forward.
You know, so one of the reasons that forgiveness seems to be so difficult for people is we feel if we forgive you, if I forgive you, Mary, for instance, then I feel like I'm condoning your actions or what you did or what happened in this particular experience, when that's a misunderstanding what it's all about. We simply need to get to a place where we can stop identifying with the story of what happened. For instance, let's take a divorce. So I was divorced once, I think you were, so we can identify from my side. So if you listen to the woman's point of view, in this case, in a divorce, right? Boy, that sounds good to me. Yeah, he's some son of a gun, but he treated you badly, blah, blah, blah. Then you listen to his side versus the woman's side and say, that's a good story too. That sounds pretty good. But when you play it and play it and play it, you play it in your mind to make you right. So that justifies your anger and resentment. And even if it is right, you're still owned by that person. So I tried to forgive it. Now, when I went to the cabin experience, which is what I created, which was this, in fact, here's the book, The Cabin Experience. You can see me sitting outside a log cabin up in Salmon Lake in Montana. Forgiveness was talked about, just so we were doing it on the third day, and we did it over a couple of hours. And at the end of the hours, we had people write letters that they did not, I gave them envelopes, and they could address it to Santa Claus. It doesn't matter. So if 30 people were there, only 3 or 4 people ever sent the letter. The rest just could not do it. And then there was a few times that I said, so this is forgiving the person. So this was an attorney, stood up in front of 30 people, but remember, it's the third day, everyone knows, everyone is a fire going, we're sitting on couches, we're eating, we're together for 3 days, exposing some of our weaknesses so we can gain some strength. And he says, Mary, I forgive you, you son of a gun, blah, 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 exponentially, because you did this and you did that, and you didn't pay attention to me, and you're wrong, and you're bad, and you're not good, and you're disgusting, so I forgive you. That is not a forgiveness letter. In fact, that attorney had to come back to the group and apologize, but he saw all the anger, it was pouring out to everyone in a forgiveness letter. A forgiveness letter, or you don't even have to mail it to the North Pole, it doesn't matter. The forgiveness letter is you detaching from your story of the event. It could be 20 years ago. People still, and by the way, if you don't forgive, you're going to live with stress. It's going to lower your immune system. It can cause diseases because there's a lot of anxiety attached to, and every time you tell a story, you get flushed again.
And you can't go forward. You're sitting here rewinding and playing this tape over and over and over. And obviously your anger or hurtfulness or resentment is showing that that was not your ideal life. So why not end the tape and stop that story and create the one that you really want? You cannot bypass this step. You've got to face. So
people are going to say, Mary, to you, then having said that, they say, so Mary, how do, people like to say, tell me what to do. I say, let me tell you who to be so you can do what you have to do. They tell me what to do. Give me the action step. So what would be the action step? How do I just forgive someone? How do I forgive an ex-wife that was 15 years ago? It's easier said than done.
Oh, most definitely.
But it takes someone that's really locked into wanting to change.
Yes. So we just went through how the past has influenced us. So you have recognized these areas already before chapter 3 here of where these not so great situations or influences or relationships have been in your life, and there's people you're angry at, you're hurt by, you need to forgive. So how easy is that to do? It's not. It's simple, but it's not easy. The first thing you need to do is take some responsibility that I'm in this situation, because if you take some ownership in it, then you can be empowered to control it. Victims cannot change their situation as easily as someone that says, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to own this and I am going to change it. It gives you a little bit more empowerment. And then you can take that step to forgive. Now, obviously, I don't feel like you have to verbally have this conversation with someone either, Larry. Do you?
Yes and no, depending on the circumstances and how far you are. I've done it both ways, but mostly I can say this, the object is not to tell the other person you're saying or to write it down and mail a letter. That's just exercise. It is to free yourself
Yes.
from this boulder that lives inside of you and the flames that come there. You know,
because sometimes we got to release it. We got to forgive someone that may not even be alive now. I've got to let go maybe a parent that wasn't so great, or you know, someone that's passed on.
I did that.
I
did that after my father passed away. You know, he's in one of these wall things. I sat on the bench outside one day, and I mean, right here in Florida, and I knocked on the wall. Wake up, Ernie. His name was Ernest. Wake up. I want to talk to you, and I want to forgive you because I've lived with the fact that you didn't come to my bowling matches or my baseball games because he was making a living in those days, always too busy on, you know, whatever the excuse was. But I was the only one whose father wasn't there. It hurt me deeply, and it lasted for years. And I sat down and I talked to him in the wall, and I'll tell you what, the catharsis, how I felt after that, now I look back, that's who he was, that's what happened, but it no longer owned me. So I was able, that was a big giant step for me.
Right. So maybe you sit down and you write a letter to this person or individual. Maybe you write this letter to yourself if you need to forgive yourself. Maybe it is a phone call to someone. You need to release all of this pent up anger, hurt, resentment, whatever it is. Get it out so that you can at least see what you're bottling up and carrying around. And then the step is going to be to let it go. And how are they going to do that, Larry? How do they really let it go?
You know what? So, by understanding that if you forgive someone, one, it's not making them right.
Yes.
In any way, but nor is it making you right. It's an episode that happened that has to be neutralized. So it's not, if you forgive someone, it's not making things okay. That's not what it's about. It's to unburden yourself. You win if you're able to do that. Sometimes it'll take a little time. Other people can forgive. You know, it's all about different people. But I know from the cabinet experience, this happened 4 times, I swear, this week. I got some letters from people that I haven't spoken to from 3 years to 15 years about how their life was changed to the cabinet experience. And 2 of them mentioned the fact that they had to get rid of the past, had to get rid of their, and to create the new, better image of them so that they could be fulfilled in life. So what I'm saying, if you don't forgive someone, it's like being in a mud in your car and stepping on the accelerator and the wheels are spinning all the time. So you need a different action step. Now, how important is this is another thing. I think it's ultra important if you live in my world, which is helping people achieve their successes and happiness and prosperity in their life. If you're happy where you are, this is the kiss of death. I am who I am, right? It doesn't matter anymore. You know, that was a long time ago and it really doesn't bother me. All BS. Right? I think it needs to be examined if we're going to clean it up. And then starting next week in chapter 4, we're going to go step 1 and 2 of what to do. But this is not what to do, it's how to be. Mary, closing thoughts, because then I have a closing thing I want to do.
Yes. So when you go through this exercise, whether it is in person, on paper, telling yourself, you've recognized, you're forgiving, you now let it go. Put it to rest. Really put it to rest. Get it behind you. Make it a closed door. You've learned your lesson. We're going to build on that now. The good stuff comes in chapter 4, where we get to show you how to plan out what you really want. You want some action steps? We're going to give you some really good to-do things in chapter 4.
So I don't think it's appropriate really to read something to you, but I went to into this book and pulled out a page that I would like to read to you. It's called The Forgiveness Scroll, and it was attributed to Abraham Lincoln, which is, in this time with all the politics in the world, it's probably good to read from Abraham Lincoln, but I don't know, I haven't verified it. But let me just read this to you. It said that he wrote this in 1860 something. I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit. For too long, every ounce of forgiveness I owned was locked away, hidden from view, waiting for me to bestow its precious presence on some worthy person. Alas, I found most people to be singularly unworthy of my valuable forgiveness, and since they never asked for any, I kept it all to myself. Now the forgiveness that I hoarded had sprouted within my heart like a crippled seed yielding bitter fruit. No more. At this moment, my life has taken a new hope and new assurance. I now understand that forgiveness has value only when it is given away. By the simple act of granting forgiveness, I release the demons from the past, about which I can do nothing anyway. And I created for myself a new heart, a new beginning, and I am no longer consumed by unproductive thoughts. I give up my bitterness. I am content in my soul and effective again with my fellow man. I will greet each day with a forgiving spirit, and I will know the difference between right and wrong. I know what is best for my future, the future of my family, and neither misguided opinion nor unjust criticism will alter my course. Those who are critical of my goals and dreams simply do not understand the purpose to which I have been called. For many years, my greatest enemy has been myself. Every mistake, every miscalculation, every stumble I made has been replayed again and again in my mind. I realize today it is impossible to fight an enemy that's living in my head. By forgiving myself, I erase the doubts, fears, and frustrations that have kept my past in the present. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the favorite line that I know it, and I read it, I understand it. Listen to how powerful it is. He said, from this day forward, my history will cease to control my destiny. What happened in the past no longer has power or dominion over me and will not influence my future. From this day forward, my history will cease to control my destiny. I have forgiven myself. My life has just begun. I think that's amazing. That's what today was all about. I think you can, there's references, you can look online and find things about forgiveness, but I would take a look at this, no matter how old you are, to free yourself and let you be in a space to move ahead, which is what this is all about.
Very
So,
powerful.
thank you, Mary.
Yes. Just
next
dig in,
week-
guys. There's a lot of good things online. Wayne Dyer has a 15-step forgiveness program as well. Rewatch this video. We're going to help you release the past, and next week we're going to be building on the future. Be well.
Be well. See you next week.